perfect science. It's a bit like buying a house. You're seeing a limited, curated version of what you're purchasing, and then you're making a decision that will have a significant impact on your future. And just as you wouldn't complete a property purchase without things like surveys and checks, you should never hire without getting references. To grow our businesses, we'll have to hire people at some point. And although in an ideal world, all of our new team members would come from within our existing networks, where we have much greater context and much greater confidence in the quality of the people that we bring on board. In practice, that's pretty rarely feasible. Most people just don't have the reach or the connections to find the very best candidates for every position from their immediate circle. Now, one of the most effective tools you can use to mitigate your risk in hiring is reference checking. But in a world where HR teams control references, candidates select their referees, and you'll struggle to get much detail when you take them, taking references that aren't a complete waste of time can be extremely challenging. Bad hires are incredibly costly to your business. The US Department of Labor found that a poor hire typically costs a company at least 30% of their annual salary. And when you factor in hiring costs, time wasted by management, and general disruption to the team, the real price is likely much higher. Companies who hire well, on the other hand, have been shown to be at least 10% more productive and 30% more profitable than those that don't. But despite this, most companies are not very good at hiring. CareerBuilder ran a survey recently that showed that 28% of employers have hired candidates who performed well in interviews, or so they thought, but underperformed on the job. And my own experience would suggest this might well be a vast understatement. Now, your best defense against this is to start treating referencing as an integral part of your hiring process rather than a box you need to tick. And there are 4 key steps you can take to re-engineer your referencing. First is to leverage mutual connections. Now, this isn't always possible, but rather than relying solely on the references your chosen candidate provides, scour your network for mutual connections you could get in touch with and take an informal reference from them. Check, of course, that this is okay with the candidate before you do it, but talking to someone who knows you both is much more likely to yield valuable insights than the filtered, hand-picked list that we all typically provide as referees. And then secondly, emphasize that you want a personal reference rather than a company one. Because when formal reference requests are made, most of the time you'll just get a letter from the HR department which will confirm job title and dates of employment. And while verifying those facts is important, it's not going to give you much insight. So instead of that, get in touch with the referee directly and ask them for a personal reference. When you speak to them, frame the conversation as advisory rather than formal, and try to ask open questions that encourage them to elaborate, like, tell me about your relationship with John, or what do you remember about your time working together? And crucial to this is step 3, which is actually speak to the referee. Now, that's simple, but it's extremely important. Written references are full of risk for the person who provides them, and they've been used successfully in court. So taking the written record away decreases the potential negative impact, and it also allows you to adopt a warmer tone, reduces formality, and usually makes the referee more open. You'll get much deeper, more nuanced feedback. You'll be able to ask follow-up questions based on the responses. And unsurprisingly, the Society for Human Resource Management found that 92% of hiring managers prefer the information they get from verbal references to written ones because they give much richer insights into work style, collaboration, and potential weaknesses. If your referee insists on a written reference, then try asking for a 10-minute follow-up call to just clarify key points. And number 4, don't just focus on strengths and weaknesses. If you ask hackneyed, overused questions, then you're going to get cliched and glib responses. So instead of the usual strengths and weaknesses line of inquiry, focus on 4 core questions to center your reference around. What is this person really great at? What would you recommend we focus on if we want to develop them beyond their current level of capability? From your experience working with them, how would you suggest we can get the best out of them? You don't need to figure that out yourself. Someone else has probably already done it. And given the right circumstances, would you hire them again? That last question is key because it gets you straight to the truth of the matter. Ask it last once you've had a chance to build good rapport. Now, it's true that most reference checks aren't worth the time they take, but that's because they're treated as a thing you have to do rather than an opportunity to gain valuable insight. But when they're done well, they can be one of your greatest tools in assembling a brilliant team that really delivers.